Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to M4J-Hatfield Racing here on F1 2021. And this week, we are at Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix. Now, we had a very torrid time last week in Singapore. Nothing to do with Singapore itself, just me not being able to drive the damn car, which is always a bad thing, not being able to drive the car. And I've had some issues in a couple of races now with the car not feeling very responsive. And I think part of the problem is still getting to grips with the aerodynamics. So there's a particular corner on this track that I used to take reasonably flat and was fairly comfortable. This time around, with the new aero regulations, I struggled. And I really struggled with the turn 1 and 2 here. Because if you go a little bit too wide or a bit too fast through turn 1... actually, I don't know if this is one corner or not, but the right-hander coming out of the pit lane, basically, or the pit straight. If you take the first half of that too fast, or go a little too wide, then it completely ruins your line for the second part. But it was that corner there, the one we just went round, the left-hander. You used to be able to take that flat, whereas this time around, really struggled. And actually struggled with that right-hander there as well. I'm watching this back now and actually surprising myself with how well I did some of these corners. I think Tom's done a very good job of cutting out the guff again, where I go through the gravel. You can probably see the paint chips still on the side of the car from where I went through the gravel and just flung gravel up everywhere. Probably broke Grosjean's finger, bless him. But yeah, not my finest practice session, this one. Better than Singapore, don't get me wrong, better than Singapore, but still not the best session I've ever had. It could have been worse though. You see there actually my delta right now is very, very good on this this race pace. Is this race pace? I think no, this is ERS, isn't it? Or tyre management. It's one or the other. But I've got pretty good pace here, and I've got pretty good management of whatever it is I'm supposed to be managing. I think it's actually ERS, because I kind of cheat there and just don't use it at all. So I tend to be quick enough with DRS and everything that I don't need to use it, and just fly round. And I actually nailed the chicane there too, which didn't happen very often. I kept going too deep into the chicane and messing up. And yeah, just yeah. Just yeah. So I think it was tyre management. My notes say tyre management. It would help if I read the notes, wouldn't it? Oh, there's me messing up turn 1/2/5. I don't know. Turn 1. I'm just going to call it turn 1 from now on. We are now on the race strategy. Best lap. Which again, this part here, I think the AI make it look as though you need to keep flat out down here, but I think human-controlled acceleration is faster than the AI acceleration, whereas they tend to keep speed better through sections like that. And you'll notice this next week as well, because the Suzuka S's inspired the S's at Kota, which is where we are next week's race. I have a similar problem. And really, you just have to force yourself to lift and coast in certain sections and just ignore the fact that the AI briefly pull away from you, because as soon as you put your foot down again, you're right up behind them, because you're better at accelerating and they're better at holding speed. That's what I've noticed anyway. It might not be the same for everyone, and I am sure people better at this game than I am will have better lines through most of these corners. For me, it's all about keeping speed. Racing is all about keeping speed, but sometimes it's about being smart. And there's that old saying they used to say on Top Gear, the smoother it looks, the faster it is. And that is definitely true. Oh, I messed that corner up so many times as well, you would not believe. But that's definitely true. The smoother it looks, the faster you're going. If it's all over the place, you could go into a corner twice the entry speed as normal and end up coming out slower because you've just messed up your racing line. And that's obviously not ideal. So that was the end of that particular section. We go into P3 now. And you know, same old, just filling in the gaps that I've not yet been able to do. And then we head into qualifying. So I'm just looking at the time stamps on my notes. 4:25, there we go. And we're about to enter qualifying. So practice wasn't too bad. I built up quite a few resource points. Was fairly happy with how all that went. Now it was just a case of actually getting my head down, putting in some good quali laps, and seeing if we can break through to... I think Q2 would have been a realistic goal for qualifying. I think Q3 was perhaps just a step too far with a track that I was really struggling at. And there's me talking about you mess up the line into turn 1 and it just completely throws you off. And at this point, I still hadn't worked out that lifting and coasting was the best thing. And I was actually braking into a lot of these corners. Going in too fast, braking, and then shooting out wide. Although saying that, I didn't do too bad here. And this part here wasn't too bad. That's nice. Just clip the exit curb there. Coming up to the bit of the track I hated the most, because it's technically a blind corner. You can see the red line. But if you've got your corner assists, the actual line, the dynamic racing line, that's what it's called, turned off, it's a very much a blind corner, and you'll have your braking points. You'll pick out landmarks beside the track that you use for braking purposes, but it's still really tricky. And if you go just slightly wide, you're in the gravel, and chances are you'll end up spinning, which I don't think is a spoiler, but you never know. This section here as well, it's about just lifting and coasting, getting the power down here. I don't know what this this pit lane is on the right hand side there. I don't know if it's for super bikes or MotoGP or something like that. But I've always found this a strange part of the track. Not really sure what it's for, but it's cool. I like Suzuka on the whole, believe it or not. I've moaned about it a little bit here, but I do like it. It's the only track on the F1 calendar that's a figure of 8. It's the only track that crosses over itself. All the other tracks, even Monaco doesn't cross over itself, which is quite surprising, really. You'd think there'd be some newer tracks. I mean, technically the pit exit of Abu Dhabi crosses under the main track. But you'd think there'd be more tracks, especially the newer tracks that do actually cross over each other. But nope, none whatsoever. Suzuka is the only one. So this is us coming in at the end of qualifying. I think I forgot to mention this actually, but I had some grid penalties in this race for changing parts. I think it was the MGU-K or the MGU-H. Can't remember. But I narrowly missed out on Q2. It wouldn't have been the worst thing anyway.
Great
but
work
yeah.
out there today. Let's have your thoughts. What was the secret of your qualifying pace? How do you feel the competition is for you this season? Great. Well, that's everything.
We come to you live today from the Mie Prefecture in the south of Japan's Honshu Island for a race that has seen many title deciders over the years. Some simple, some controversial, but all contributing to a legacy that makes the Japanese Grand Prix an indispensable stop in any Formula One season. A lap of this historic racetrack covers 3.6 miles, and it's the only time during the season that we race on a figure-of-8 racetrack. The drivers can expect some intense G-forces through the 18 corners on offer here as they experience some of the highest average apex speeds on the Formula One calendar. And keep an eye out for overtakes going into the final chicane. With the race minutes away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Young superstar Max Verstappen starts from pole position, edging out Lando Norris, who'll start from P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Perez, Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Ricciardo, Leclerc, Sainz, Gasly, and Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda, and Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, the engineer, George Russell, and Nicholas Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Tigtum, Mazepin, and Esteban Ocon rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Now you'll see I actually got a little reprieve there. Qualified in 17th, then the grid penalties kicked in, which would have sent me back to the back of the grid. But it seems everyone behind me also had grid penalties, and therefore I ended up starting ahead of them. Really rough start there as well. Me and Raikkonen very, very friendly with one another there. And I thought at this point that I'd made up loads of places going around the outside. But actually, not only did I not make up any places, I think I ended up losing a place coming out of the S's here as well. I was brave. You know, I sent it up the inside of Raikkonen and then just didn't make it stick. I ended up suffering for it. And then this was very much not ideal. Just going wide. Again, it was that blind corner I was talking about. Just going wide and not doing a very good job. It says here, down to 17th after fighting with Schumacher and Latifi. Latifi loses his place to Raikkonen. Not the best start in the world. Not the worst start, but not the best start. Trying to make up places. There's me making a mistake there again. This is literally the same incident, but 2 laps later, pretty much. Warning for colliding with Raikkonen. Bumping and spinning Raikkonen, it says there. I forgot I did that, actually. Oh, is that coming up now? That might be what's coming up now. Yeah, that's what's coming up now. Sorry, Kimmy. Sorry. I felt bad about that. But yeah, warning for collision with Raikkonen. I hit Raikkonen a lot in this race. More than I remember. But I hit him a lot. But we're up into 17th place. And we've got Schumacher here in our sights as we come up to... I don't know what the pits here is for. But it's my favourite part of the track. Because you get to do things like this. This is one of the cleanest overtakes I've managed in this season. Went wide here because I was going way too fast because I had overtake on. But I hit the grass a couple of times as well, which is risky. But Lando proved in Monza last year that you can get away with that. And he ended up finishing second because of it. So I'd say good thing. But yeah, the...
Russell is ahead of you. Okay, gap ahead is 2.8 seconds. They're on old softs. Schumacher behind. The gap behind us is 1.1 seconds. They're on old softs. Pit window will open in 3 laps time. Pit window opens in 3 laps. 8 laps to go.
Thank you, Jeffrey. The race was pretty good for the most part in terms of overtakes. Wasn't the worst I've ever done. I'm fighting Verstappen eventually. Up to 10th through pitting, it says. There we go. Flying past everyone who's pitting. My pit stop strategy has not been the best this year. Last year I did alright for pit strategy in F1 2020. 2021 I seem to get screwed a lot when I try and do the undercut. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot about this game still that I need to have reality checks with. I keep thinking I'm doing bad, but it's first season... Low budget. We don't exactly build up resource points that quickly. I did have a lot actually coming up. Oh, is this Verstappen's car about to break down?
Some information on Verstappen.
Look at that.
With their car,
Honda in Japan, and he has engine problems. Oh dear. I didn't see him in my rear view when that happened. Actually, that's a good spot, Tom. Very good spot. I think I did some other stuff to Verstappen as well that I didn't mean to do. Coming up later on, but we'll come back to that when it happens. I still haven't pitted at this point, by the way, so I'm up to 5th place purely because I haven't pitted. Now we are coming in to pit on this lap, and things start to unravel a little bit. I don't think I warm my tyres up that fast. But yeah, what I was saying was struggling with the fact that the car in the team is about where it's expected to be if this was a real life scenario. And I need to accept the fact that the car and the team are where they should be. Because I'm not chasing wins, but I'm chasing points finishes. And there are genuinely times in F1 where you won't score points for whatever reason. Whether it's your fault, whether it's the car's fault, whether, you know, the gearbox decides it doesn't want to be a gearbox anymore. Slight spoiler for next week there as well. These things happen. And sometimes you just have cars that are faster than you, like Hamilton here. And... in the past, I genuinely would have fought him there, and you can see I'm a little bit flustered that he's overtaken me, but then you kind of have to take stock and think, this is Lewis Hamilton, he's a 7-times world champion, he's in the fastest car on the grid, what hope do I have of actually fighting him? The answer is next to none, and I have a similar thing in other races where I've been lapped, and I'm genuinely fighting them to stop myself being lapped, and then I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? These cars are obviously faster than me, they're a lap ahead of me. Why am I fighting them? My fight is not with them. My fight right now is with the cars that are going to be ahead of me and behind me when I come out of the pit lane. So it's not Ricciardo, who's just gone past, and it's not Leclerc, it's not Sainz, it's not Gasly. It's probably around the level of Alonso, but again, he's having a good race actually up in 10th. But it's more, you know, the Schumachers, the Raikkonens, the Mazepins, the Giovinazzis. Those are the teams and drivers that I'm rivalries with right now. Everyone else, they're faster than me. There's no hope for me to actually beat them in a sprint race down the pit straight. There's no point of me even trying. Every now and then I get a good leap and get some DRS and the overtake button on, and I do shoot past them. But 9 times out of 10, I am not winning these fights. And that's the bit that I'm teaching myself right now. I might send it up the inside on a particular corner, do little things like that, but overall, I'm not winning the fight. And you see, I'm giving Verstappen everything I've got right now, and he is right behind me. And he's on rails when it comes to the racing line. So there is no chance on this section that I would hold him off. If this was a straight, obviously he'd be past me by now. And even here, he's trying to send it on me. And I'm just closing the door on him every opportunity I get. Here he comes right up behind me. He probably could have sent one up there if he wanted to, but I'm fighting for my life. And the only reason I'm fighting Verstappen at this point is because I know he's got car trouble. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't even bother. I would just pull over and let him go past. As it happens, I hit him there, or he hits me, and ends up in the pit. Now I thought at the time, my missus was in the room with me, and I thought I'd knocked him into the pit lane, like he'd bounced off my my rear right tyre and just entered the pit lane by mistake. As it happened, I think he actually made contact with me earlier in the lap and caused wing damage, and he went in to be pitted. He went into pits to be fitted with a new front wing. I think that's what ended up happening. So he was always going to go into the pits there. Because he was actually on my left-hand side there, not the right-hand side, I almost stopped him from pitting, which would have been hilarious to see an AI drive around with a broken front wing. But again, it's the AI, so they're probably on rails regardless of car damage. I think the only thing that really stops them from competing is when the engine blows up, which does happen from time to time. So the fight with Verstappen is now over. We have held on to 15th place, but we have got Esteban Ocon right behind us, and we could potentially lose that position as well. As it happens, there's only 1.5 laps to go at this point, and Tom's put in my notes here that this is the fastest lap I set in the race. So I think just like with Singapore last week, I learned to drive this track very, very late in the race weekend, as in 2 laps to go of the race itself. And, you know, I'm still not nailing the S's or anything like that. I would like to drive Suzuka a little bit more. Maybe, you know, in off time, just do some practice races or something, particularly for this chicane here. Because I have solid laps. Even in qualifying and practice I had this, where I had some really solid laps. And it comes up to the chicane at the end there, and I just completely whiff it. And sure, yeah, it just happens sometimes. It really does happen. Actually, this might be my fastest lap. No, this isn't, because I got a red first sector. No, lap 12 was my fastest lap. This lap is just, I didn't really do very well. I messed up the S's. I was so concentrated on beating my previous lap time that I just messed it up here. And you can see Ocon is right behind me. There would have been a fight on our hands if we'd carried on for another lap or two. But as it happens, final chicane. Nailed the entry there. Nailed the second corner there. Got pretty decent traction coming out of it. Ocon is off in the distance now. And over the line to finish in, I want to say 15th place. And I think that's correct. It's not my best race ever. It's not my worst race. There are times where I will do better. But it could have been a lot worse. Let's put it that way. So I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this.
That's it then for another fantastic Grand Prix here in Japan. A brilliant victory that has thoroughly earned the applause from the sellout crowd here today. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
I really feel the track layout combined with the track temperatures we saw today suited their car. These cars come alive when the tyres are just at the right temperature, and the driver did a great job managing that as well. They just look so comfortable out there. It's like anything, it always looks so easy when it all just clicks.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team. Lewis Hamilton takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship after an excellent result. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Difficult call, but I'd like to say Esteban Ocon. He's just so gifted at getting the most out of his tyres, and he showed that today.
It's time to check out the Constructors' standings. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
So that was an exciting race from our perspective. Let's have yours. You're breaking all expectations. What's your secret? You had a close battle today, didn't you? You scraped the walls a few times. Were you struggling for grip? Appreciate your time.
So we've got the highlights of the race here, and for the first time ever, I'm actually going to try and finish the commentary of the highlights before the highlights themselves actually finish. So I have got roughly 2.5 minutes to talk you through this race. And like I said before Claire interrupted me there, or before Crofty interrupted me, I should say. That was unfair on Claire. I apologise, Claire. I can't be too unhappy with this. You know, I got a pretty decent start. I can't remember if I used flashback on the start, but the version of the start that you saw there, it wasn't too bad. I got pushed into the wall by Raikkonen, but I managed to keep my head. Got past Raikkonen in the end. It was only up at the top of the hill. So coming around the S's here, I did all right. Not the fastest, not the slowest. You see Russell's got away from me there. It was only here where I lost my composure a little bit, going round the gravel trap that I just lost the place. But here, I got one place back. As I said, I got some pretty decent overtakes. My overtake on Schumacher, I'm really, really happy with. And I do replicate that in a couple of other races throughout the season. But it's just really, really frustrating that I can't put a consistent race together. It's only 13, 14, 15 laps, whatever it might be. I think the longest race I've had is 18 laps. And every lap is inconsistent. No lap is the same. Which is the same with real life too, I suppose. But I'm wildly inconsistent. And that's where I let myself down a little bit. And it's something I'm working on. Some of these tracks like Suzuka, Singapore, even Kota to an extent, I've not driven very often. Silverstone, Baku, Monza, even Imola, I've driven a lot recently. But these ones, they're kind of outliers for me. I don't go around them very often. So I know the layout, roughly, but sometimes you forget just how hilly a part of the track is, or just how sharp a corner actually is. And it does become difficult to remember all of the tracks exactly when you're racing. So, I mean, yeah, that's what practice is meant to be for. Maybe I should do more practice laps to get my head around the track. But I like to just get into qualifying, get into the race, and actually get these videos recorded. That's probably one of the reasons why I suck at some of these as well. But it is what it is. What can you do? So yeah, overall, not too bad. Could have been better, it could have been worse. But we've got another race next week at Kota, and I'm sure things will pick up from there on. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series so far. Drop some comments down below, let me know how to improve the team, the car, and all that good stuff. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. We did it, everyone! I finished before the end of the highlights. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.